As wonderful as Toronto is to live, it's one of the most expensive cities to live in the entire world. Well, definitely in Canada anyway. If you're looking for a detached home in Toronto for under $1 million, you're gonna be looking at something like this. And not everybody wants to live in an old house like this. Most young people are gonna want to live in something like this. But it's gonna be next to impossible without the help of family. So how do you ask? Well, I sat down with Mikayla from our office, and she's a millennial going through the same thing right now, looking to buy her first place, but she has no idea how to get started.
So I'm 23, looking to eventually purchase my own property, but like you said, it's so expensive to even get into the ownership market that it feels like people my age are either having to rent or still living at home to be able to afford to live in the city. So I have a couple friends who have moved out after university, and they're either paying and renting with roommates. Most of them are with roommates. Not a lot of people renting on their own just because there's not enough money left over afterward for much else. So they're either living with a couple of roommates downtown, or if they lived downtown before university, living with their parents still. The way that I see renting is you're kind of just throwing money away each month and it's not coming back to you in any sort of way. So I want to be able to invest in something that's going to create money for me in the future. So also right now I don't have to move out. Like, I'm really lucky that I get to live with my parents still and that we get along really well. It's a good dynamic and we have a house and I've got my own space. So I'm not really in a rush to move out either. And because I'm working full time, I'm able to save everything that I have right now, and I don't really have a ton of expenses.
Nice.
It's really nice. And I know a lot of people can't relate to that, so that's not realistic for everyone, but I'm just trying to live at home and save up for a down payment and then be able to purchase a condo, because I know that also once you have a condo, it's easier to get into something like a detached home afterward. And if you can get your finances in a row, like while you're younger than versus older, it gives you so much advantage in the long term. And as prices go up, then the value of your property will go up.
Have you guys had that conversation?
So that's the part that I kind of came to you about, because I had a brief conversation, and by conversation I mean it was like a one sentence kind of thing where I was like, hey, would you be open to helping me out with my first property, considering you guys are in a great financial position and the market's difficult and I'm young and don't have a ton of money? And my mom kind of said, okay, yeah, that can be a conversation that we could have in the future. And that's kind of where I left it at, because it was a positive note of, okay, maybe. I didn't want to go back into it and create a no out of it, right. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that as a maybe. Do my own research, do my own planning, and then come to them with an actual proposal, which I haven't done yet. And that's why I came to Ken saying, what is your advice on the current market and on getting my parents to help me out with my first place? So they're open to it, which is really encouraging.
So if you're ready to have that conversation itself, then you want to put yourself in the right environment. It could be in a quiet setting and not in a family gathering, somewhere where it's just calm and they're not under pressure to feel guilt-tripped into helping you out. If you're transparent about your plan and you have a backup option, and it shows a plan that you actually well thought out, you've actually thought about it, actually goes a long way. You also have to understand the impact on your parents themselves. I mean, they might have limited savings, or they might have debts, or looking to save for their own retirement themselves. So you have to show some respect by understanding how much assistance they can provide, if anything at all. Maybe it's not a direct investment into the property itself or buying you the property or even a down payment. It could mean co-signing on a mortgage. Look, there's a lot of opportunities for them to help, and you're very lucky and blessed enough to even be able to consider having this option. So just think about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't think it's within reality anymore. Like, even talking to my brother, he was saying, he literally just said, like, I'm never gonna own. And I think it's that mentality that also pushes you towards renting in the long term, because you don't even think it's a possibility, so you don't put out savings for that specific down payment, right? Like, people are, I think, just living paycheck to paycheck right now. And so I guess it's difficult for some people to think about the word ownership and being able to afford that, but I think you just have to have actionable plans and day by day, savings little by little to get that down payment, because in the long term it's going to be able to create real wealth for you. So,
and you also have to consider fairness amongst siblings as well too. If you have any other siblings that you live with that they might have to care for. And don't forget to explore all the government incentives that are available to you, such as the First-Time Homebuyers Plan, FHSA, or the RSP Savings Plan, or even TFSA.
I haven't contributed toward yet. I'm mostly contributing to TFSA just because that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years, and then putting it in stocks that way. But the good thing about the FHSA is that you can contribute up to $40,000 over your lifetime. And if you are purchasing with another person, that means that you can save up to 80 grand, and then you can take that money out tax-free towards your first home, but then you can also invest that money that's sitting in your first home savings account into stocks.
Correct.
So yeah, I think it's a really great incentive, and I don't know if a lot of young Canadians know about it. I don't know if it's because, like we said, the conversation of ownership isn't really happening. It's more about just getting by and renting, but that's something I'm for sure going to start putting money into regularly. Yeah, and I think that's a good plan. Yeah.
And RSPs as well too, because you can do the
RSPs.
same. You can also borrow from your RSPs
Yes.
and pay back over 15 years or 16 years.
Yes, yes,
So that's
yes.
a good program
And
as
that's,
well.
I think, the difference between, like, something I need to think about for sure is RSP versus FHSA. Because it seems to me, at least like from the research I've done, that the FHSA might make more sense to try and max out first, just because you have to pay back the RSP. But I also do need to do more research in that for sure.
Well, the RSPs, you also get some tax savings as well too. Like right off, you get it lowers your income basically.
And
to-
FHSA.
Oh, it does the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
same thing.
Okay, well. All I gotta say is that don't be embarrassed to ask for help. A lot of people are actually doing it and you're not the only one. But if you do need some professional advice, make sure you give us a shout. What would you ask for them to do? Like what? Is it contribute the down payment? Is it like buy the place outright? Or is it like, go joint venture together and, partner on a purchase?
I think it would be, yeah, so I don't know 100%, but just off the top of my head, like it would probably be a contribute to the down payment as well as co-sign.
Right.
So they would be on the title. Because they're my parents, I trust them, we have a good relationship. Like I feel comfortable with putting them on title. And then they're able to contribute to the down payment because they do make a reasonable amount of income. So I think that would be the conversation that I'd be starting with, but I definitely think I need to focus more on the down payment, having my side of the down payment ready so that when I approach them, it's a more legible conversation and they actually can see that I'm dedicated towards getting to that, end goal of purchasing.
And as a parent, I wish I had kids like you where, they got their good head on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And if they come to me with a good savings plan, like, listen, mom, dad, I got whatever, 100,000, maybe by that time it'd probably be like 500,000, but whatever. Like they have a certain down payment down and it shows responsibility because I would love to give that to my kids because it teaches them paying bills. Like I wouldn't just give them the condo. I might, like who knows, right? But I probably won't gift them the entire condo. I'd want them to have some sort of payment so they have some sort of financial responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people that are either too wealthy, born too wealthy, they kind of get messed up. Right?
It's true, for sure.
They don't know the way in life.
Yeah, you get things handed to you and you don't understand the value of hard work. But also maybe don't understand the value of money in itself. And then, I don't know. I think paying for some of it myself is gonna wake me up to the real world. Because right now I'm still living at home, right? So I'm still kind of living in that bubble. But I've seen people who are renting currently and they're just struggling to even do anything on the weekends or do anything after work because they don't want to spend anything. So I see that and I don't want to go down that route. So that's why I have put it on myself to figure out how I can get into ownership quicker because I'm also not in a rush, which I acknowledge is a lucky position to be in, to not have to move out.
So for those of the people that aren't as fortunate as you with good parents and all that, there's always the option of partnering with somebody, whether you do it with a partner, like a girlfriend, boyfriend, or even a spouse, whatever, or it could be a roommate, it could be a friend, it could be co-ownership with somebody else, it could be a joint venture with somebody that actually has more wealth, like a family member or anybody else, right? Like even if not parents, right? So that's another way to get into ownership as well.
And do you think investors as well, that's something you can approach an investor?
It could be. Investors are a little bit different. It depends on what kind of relationship you have with them.
Right.
If it's just a straight up investor that you don't know if you can have a long-term relationship with them, because at the end of the day, it will be a long-term relationship. And it does have to be somebody that trusts you and wants to see you succeed as well too, as opposed to just a financial instrument, right? Because then if you do that, there's also or there used to be a government program where they would loan you some of the down payment or something and then they get some sort of equity back. I think they got rid of that program, but I think some of those programs probably do exist if you look hard enough. It just, why would you give part of your equity? Like if you're the one buying the place, you improve it, you put a new kitchen in, whatever you do to it, right? And you make it worth more money, you have to give a percentage of equity because you have to share the equity with them, right?
Yeah.
So that's something just to consider for those of you guys watching that don't have lucky parents like Mikayla does. Okay, well that's great. At least there's some hope. A lot of people I talk to that are younger at your age kind of have just given up hope.
I know.
And they feel depressed about it. And that's why there's so much controversy in the housing market. Anytime I put something out about renting and owning and landlords and stuff, it just kind of gets really nasty. And I think a lot of the political stuff going on is housing affordability. That's the main topic
100%.
of it all, right? Because it's housing. It's everybody needs housing.
Yeah. And the development not happening also, I think, is a big conversation, because a lot of us are seeing the prices that are relatively high and looking and thinking that we can never afford that kind of place. But then we're not seeing new development that's going to be able to lower the cost of housing, but we're still seeing high levels of immigration. So I think, yeah, young people almost feel frustrated that it just doesn't seem like we're able to come to a solution. And I think, yeah, like you said, it's going to take a long time. And also, because condos and those kind of things aren't being built, we're going to see kind of maybe like a flip side of the coin of right now we have a lot of inventory out, but in a couple of years it might be the opposite and we'll have a lack of condos. And so that's why I guess this conversation is important to have right now, because the prices right now are lower, and you have better negotiation. What is the word I'm looking for?
You have more buying power at the end of the day. And that's how this whole conversation started, right? Because you're saying how, well, listen, now we're kind of a bit of a dip and I don't need it right now. Maybe my parents could refinance their house and take some equity out and help you buy a place and you pay them back or whatever, and you get at a good entry point where it's like lower than, historically lower than where it was before.
Yeah.
Right? And there is probably good fundamental, good upside on where the condo price is going to go, or even housing prices in general.
Yeah.
So I think that's not a bad conversation to have. You just got to approach it with delicate care, right? Because you got to look at their perspective too, because maybe they're looking at their house as a retirement package. If you don't know this, right? I mean, unless you had the conversation, they might be looking at this to fund their retirement.
Yeah.
And if they have to break off a little bit to give to their kids, then it's going to be a sensitive topic.
For sure. You definitely have to go into it with a structured, like go into the conversation and have it be structured, because otherwise it could get really easy to get lost in the conversation and not come to a resolution or an outcome. Like, I think the way that I want to have things is have my numbers down, have everything down, and know exactly what kind of property I'm looking for. Because like you said, there's different options for properties. Like a duplex could be a good option to help pay off the mortgage. And also I think that could give you better borrowing power. I don't know. There's things that you can look up to that could help there. But yeah, I think it's a good time right now to buy, despite things being, expensive. They're just going to get more expensive, as we've seen over the last 10 years in the GTA, and that's unfortunate, but you have to work with the climate that you're in right now. And, just kind of giving up and saying there's no hope for ownership isn't going to help you get there. It's not going to help you get any closer to ownership. If anything, it's going to leave you farther behind when times do progress. So I think it's really important to have these conversations.
Yeah, and the people that do rent and put their money into other savings, that it's hard when you're young because it's so like everything's so shiny.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you have excess capital, sure. So are you going to save it in something and be diligent about it, or are you going to go spend on bottle service or something?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's so easy to kind of get lost to that, and then all of a sudden 10 years passes and you're like, shoot, what'd I do?
Yes, and this is what I've tried to tell. Or not tell, but I feel like I've come to this realization, and not a lot of people my age have, is your 20s can either be, preparing yourself for your 30s, or it could be enjoying your youth and then taking life seriously at the end of your 20s. And I've seen a lot of people traveling and going into debt just to travel around the world with their friends. And I understand that perspective, but I think for me, I really am looking for that long-term security, because I know I do want to have a family. I know I do want to be able to provide for them as well. And I don't want to rely on external factors to be able to do that. So for me, my 20s is for building, for saving, and for becoming financially independent and educated, because that's what you got to do when you live in this climate, especially in Toronto right now. We all know how expensive it is, so there's not really another option in my opinion. But hey, I don't judge other people for what they do, but I'm just trying to give knowledge for people who are looking to do similar things to me or have a similar mindset.
And putting your head under a pillow or whatever, it just doesn't solve the problem, right?
No,
so
exactly.
It's good that you're getting ahead of it.
Exactly, yes.
Cool. Well, best of luck. And I actually have a downloadable guide, by the way, if you want to go check it out. You can just click the link below and you can actually download it's a guide on basically how to have a conversation with your parents about giving you money or giving you a head start, really. And at the same time, I also have another downloadable guide from the parents' perspective, how to help your kids get a head start in life and how to have that conversation as well too. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, Mikayla.
Thank you.
And I wish you best of luck. And
Thank you so much.
All right.
Add it up.
Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe, but more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.